Awesome.
Right.
Hello. Hi. So,
Hi.
can you first state your name, major, year, and where you're from?
Right. Well, I'm Eduardo Alvarez. I'm 18. I'm a freshman, and my majors are psychology and theater. And I am natively from Puerto Rico, and I moved to Indy in 2018.
Oh, wow. So you're pretty new here, like me. Okay, that's cool. Um,
Yeah, pretty.
so what made you move to Indy?
So, my mom is a teacher, and she'd been sort of like looking around because my sister and I were going to study out here anyway. And so she'd been looking for a few teaching jobs out here, and she had a few interviews. And I know that this one was the first one and one of the better paying ones that she found. And my sister was a senior at the time, and I was a junior. So when my mom moved here, I came with her, sort of just because, like, I don't want to leave my mom alone. And my sister just pretty much finished her senior year in Puerto Rico with my dad. And then I moved here and I finished high school over here.
It's pretty cool. Wow, that's sounds like a lot. Was the transition hard?
Honestly, not too much. Like, and I don't mean for this to sound for like grandiose or anything, but I sort of felt like coming here to a bigger school was sort of like what I needed. Like, I was in a very small school, and acting very much wasn't a thing, very much in Puerto Rico, unless you were like in college or you were like already like an adult. So when I got here and I started doing dance, I did choir, I did acting, I sort of felt like, yeah, this is the place I was meant to be. Like, this is where my skills sort of, grew, and this is where I needed to be.
Wow, I'm
So
glad you were able to find that. Um,
yeah,
so psychology and theater. How did you end up
yeah.
in this class?
So funny story, when I was applying to Ball State, they have the little checkbox of like, would you like to apply to the honors college? And I was like, sure, why not? Boom. I clicked it. Then they required a whole bunch of like other files and a whole bunch of other things that I didn't turn in because I was like, I don't think I want to do the honors college. And then I got an acceptance letter from the honors college, and then I was like, well, guess I'm gonna try it out for a year, and if I like it, I'll stay, and if I don't, I'll go out next year. But I think that seeing a few other teachers in the honors college, I might stay. Really thinking about staying.
Wow. Honestly, you're lucky. I worked on that essay for so long, for so long.
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. It's totally fine. Um, and how did you end up in the anti-racism course in specific?
So I know that I was looking at courses sort of like to join when I know that we had one of those, I think it was a WebEx meeting where they were like going through classes and everything that the honors college sort of entailed. And I saw a few of the required classes and I was like, I don't like any of these. Like, a lot of them had to do with like history of like something in specific. And me personally, I'm not a big fan of history, which is fine. But I was like, okay, I'll just find something like on my own and start looking. And then in some of the social studies classes, I saw this and I was like, hmm. So when I read the description, I was like, oh, this sort of talks a lot about race and all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? I do want to learn more about this. Like, as someone that constantly says they're not from the US, even though everyone is like, oh, Puerto Rico is a territory. I'm like, but in theory, not part of it. I was like, let me educate myself on a whole bunch of these things.
Mhm.
So I picked it, and I'm really glad I did.
Wow. Um, Sounds like a wild process, right? Um, one second.
Yeah. Like, a lot of my current schedule was either at random or very specific.
Um, So you're passionate about theater, and you came into an anti-racism course. What about the psychology bit?
I know that ever since I was younger, I sort of was like, I like helping people.
Mm,
And when I got to middle school and high school, I sort of became a lot of people's like emotion person. Like it was like, this is what I'm feeling. Like I don't know why. Like I'm having this issue or this issue, and like I would slowly help them through it. And the more I did it, I was like, I like this. Like this sort of aspect of taking people's emotions and untying them, sort of so that they understand what they're feeling. It was, I don't know. I always thought that it was something that a lot of people didn't have. So I liked being that for them. So I started thinking that like our particular age group needs a lot of like psychological help. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be a therapist for teenagers. So I hopped into psychology and hopefully I'll follow that and become a therapist.
it's really cool. That was actually something I was considering because I was also the confidant type friend. So
Yeah.
it's cool that we can relate to that.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, I couldn't imagine spending so long listening to so many potentially sad stories. As much as I would like to help someone, I don't know how that would affect me because I've had many mental illness issues. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, um, now, how is it like in your hometown or neighborhood growing up before moving?
I know that we tended to move around a good bit, but like almost everywhere that we were, it it was never a big issue. Like it was never something that was, there because in Puerto Rico there's people of every skin color. Like we're by blood, we're a combination of Spaniards, African Americans, and Indians, and like Native Americans. And so that definitely comes through in a lot of the people there. There's definitely a lot of people that are darker, what we consider, I guess, today brown. There is a lot of like very tan, I guess you could say, sort of orangey-ish people. Like we have our fair share of like very much, I guess, white passing people in Puerto Rico. So to us, looks were never something that was a problem. Like everyone was pretty much one in the same. So we never really had a big race problems.
Okay, so you had that background where people were inclusive, and that wasn't a dynamic you had to worry about. But
Yeah.
then you get to the U.S. What happened then?
Yeah. Because I know that my English, I learned it a lot through, I learned it in third grade and then I developed it through YouTube. So I got a lot of like my information from the US, I guess, through YouTube and like a lot of YouTubers of many different ethnicities and everything. But I also had same thing that you had in the sense of like I had a bunch of stereotypes sort of coming into my head that I didn't know about. So when I got here, it was sort of like, oh wait, I'm having thoughts that probably don't fit people and that didn't fit people a lot of the time. And it started being a thing of like, okay, what's gonna fly and what's not gonna fly here. Like I had to learn to, understand what was theirs and what was a stereotype. And it took a while because I met not great people when I first got here, didn't have a great group of friends. And then like after leaving them, I sort of came into you know, I was with everyone all the time. Like I like because they were all Hispanic, but they were also like douchey Hispanics. So they were all very much nonchalant about whatever they wanted to do or whoever they wanted to insult. They would just go for it. And after like leaving that, thank God, I just I don't know. I became a better person, and it was really nice.
I'm glad you were able to kind of get away from all that. It sounds
Definitely.
pleasant.
Was not fun.
At that point, did you encounter any racism?
I don't think I experienced. I don't think any of it was like very blunt racism. I had a lot of microaggressions. Like this one to me personally doesn't hit, but I know that to other people it does. You're English, you don't have an accent, right? And that's something that mostly I take pride in because yes, I like practiced my English. I know that it is. And when I joined my choir class, there was this other like white guy, and we looked very similar. And immediately towards me, they were like, "Oh, you're like the Hispanic him," or like, "Oh, he's like the white you,"
Oh
and I
my,
was like, "Yeah, totally," because we're not different people.
wow.
And then we hated each other for a while because of it, but then we're fine. We
That's
talked about it.
insane. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was weird to get accustomed to.
Did you do you have any interactions like that still?
Currently, no, mostly because currently, like, where I'm out of that space, and almost everyone that I've met at Ball State is very like open and like very much, I guess, good people. I guess you could call it, where they don't point that out, or if you don't bring it up, they don't bring it up.
Mhm.
Like to them, I'm just a regular person that they met. Like it didn't really matter what was my background.
Do you feel like that's an aspect of being colorblind, um, and that whole argument of not seeing grace, or do you think that's just people trying to be nice?
That's very interesting because I know that I had views like that at one point. I was like, yeah, like there's no point if you don't see the color, then there's no point in you like seeing the issues that they could have. And I grew out of that very quickly. But I know that in that sense, I don't usually try and ask that either. And now that you say it, I don't know if it's because of color blindness or being nice. Because I know that where I work, we have a lot of like diverse people come in, and every time that I hear somebody maybe speak with a slight Spanish accent, I try to, as respectfully as possible, be like, "Would you rather me speak Spanish or anything like that?" And I know that to them, it's a very comforting thing to like hear somebody ask that. But I still haven't encountered someone that's been like, "Why would you ask that?" So it stands on a weird balance, I guess. Like, is it being nice sometimes, or is it just like, oh, am I being colorblind and sort of being insensitive to a certain extent? So that's actually that got me thinking.
Um, I really like the. I think it's really cool that you ask if they want you to speak in Spanish, for example, because like you're trying to accommodate the other person, which sort of ties in with your psychology major. So I thought that
Yeah,
was cool.
yeah,
Um, are there people that say, "Yeah, I would much rather you speak Spanish"? Because you said it kind of creates a comfort.
yeah. Like I know that most of the time they're just like, oh, thank God. Like some of them are like, oh, thank God, someone that speaks Spanish, and like we just like go off in Spanish, and then we have like a good time in the store. Like I get them everything they need, and they leave like very satisfied. And then there's people that like sort of are like still a little bit uncomfortable, like in the sense because everyone around them is still speaking English, so they still sort of have that anxiety of like, what if they talk to me and I don't know what to say? So some of them are still sometimes tense until you give them some time with you, like talking Spanish. And then, because sometimes we get families where it's like the parents don't speak any English, but the kids do. And it's the parents that need something. So you're trying to help the parents, but you're talking through the kids. And I know that that can be uncomfortable to the parents, but as someone whose parents speak English, not the best, but they still do it, like it's it's a nice feeling to know that there's someone there to help them, like that can speak their language and that can help them. I know that to me at least creates a very like calm environment. So that's what I usually try to give to any clients that like come into the store, like the feeling of calm, that they have someone that can talk to them there.
Um, it's again really, really cool. Do you find that environment at Ball State, that whole comforting air, because you're trying to make that for other people, but you're not you can't be expected to create that all the time. It must be exhausting. Do you find that at Ball State?
I know that currently I've met maybe two people that can speak fluent Spanish with me at Ball State, but I'm not around them all the time. Like I know that the friends that I currently have, like one of them is Filipino and they speak Tagalog, like not super fluently, but with their family sometimes they speak Tagalog. And I think it's cool because like, they have their own little environment. And when I'm hanging out with those friends, we speak in both English and Spanish, and it's fun and it's calm and it's relaxing. And I feel like at Ball State, they try and do like, the best they can to create that environment for everybody, like with the clubs and everything. But it's not always there. So sometimes you have to either create your own space or like go and find someone out of that. At least with me, it's my sister, like an environment that like comes back to home. And
Mhm.
I don't have that a lot at Ball State, but I know that if I looked harder, I could probably find it.
Do you think the Ball State can do a better job creating or promoting that?
I think so. Like, I understand that Ball State is predominantly white, and that's probably not going to change anytime soon just because of the way our population works. But I know that maybe having more spokespeople, I guess, or like people that are willing to like go out on social media or on bigger platforms of a person of either like of color or anybody else, like if they had those spokespeople there,
Mhm.
like I feel like it would definitely create sort of a more welcoming environment for that, because I still think that Ball State has a decent diversity. It is just predominantly white.
Yeah, like many institutions in the U.S., to be honest, that's how the country is right now. Uh,
I guess it's just the word. Yeah.
do you think it's going to change?
I think that just because it's Indiana, it won't be changing too much. But I know that there's other places that it could probably happen. Ball State, I don't see it too much because it's Indiana, but I could see it happening at some point. Just probably not very soon.
Um, yeah, I hope it happens sooner rather than
Yeah,
later.
I'm not sure about it later.
But we have to wait, I guess.
Yeah, we just got to keep our head up.
Exactly.
Yeah, we just have to like work it into existence.
Work it. I like that. um, so how do your other identities or social positions tie in? So your gender, class, region, religion, how do they shape your experience now that you're here in the US?
I know that as you said, as a man, I by just nature have slightly better opportunities, or just like I guess people give me more leeway for things. And I was raised very Catholic, and I do believe, obviously, but I'm also not a very hardcore practitioner of like, beating it into your face. Like, I'm not gonna go out there and being like, oh, I don't believe in Jesus. And it's like, oh, but that's wrong. Don't do that. Like, you have to believe in something. It's like, I feel that. Because I have friends that are like, they have their own beliefs, and I know some of them are agnostic, where it's like, I think there's something out there. I don't think it's like a singular Catholic God or like anything like that. And I'm like, that's fair, because sometimes I feel like that too. Like, I just have a concrete idea of what I think is out there. And it being Catholic, I guess, also sort of has made it easier here because sadly the US isn't super duper duper accepting about other religions. Like they've been better, but obviously it's not nearly as good as it could be. So I think that just like on paper, I am very privileged here. Like I've in the cold, I get pale enough to be very white passing. I am a male that, you know, looks like one and to a certain extent acts like one. I know that probably painting the nails is taboo for them, I guess. But like, I have very much, I've started at a different place than a lot of people.
Mhm.
And it's definitely made it easier for me, I guess, to find things. And also saying that I'm Hispanic has also added to it because, oh, they think that I'm different. So, wow, cool. But I feel like it's definitely given like wrong ideas towards people of like what I am and what I do and like what I believe and everything like that. But if you look at it based straight up on paper and experiences, I've definitely had an easier time like here than a lot of other people that I guess migrate here would.
Well, you said on paper, so off paper, I suppose. Have you faced any difficulties?
I guess in the sense of I've gotten more mad for my parents than for me because they've had not gigantic experiences, but they've had certain experiences where I get mad for them. Like there was just one time where my mom was trying to like do a phone call and this lady just like started snickering on the phone and I was pissed. Like like my mama hung up and was like, "You know what? Whatever, forget her and we'll deal with it some other time." But I wanted to grab the phone and curse her the hell out because it was like, you're being so intolerant, you're being so unprofessional, and it's literally someone that's asking for help and you're pretty much just laughing in their face.
Oh my God.
And it really bothered me, but I know that me personally, like I've in school I've had the contrary. Like I've had a lot of like I guess the staff in the school liked me a lot and like I guess the staff knew who I was even though I was only there for 2 years, but I had a very good environment that I was around that I know that my parents have had more experiences than me and I've been more mad for them than for me.
Wow. That sounds such a rude thing as well. Like it's just
Yeah,
not being a decent human being there. Um,
exactly.
when it comes to the course, then, what does it mean to be an anti-racist to you?
To me, I guess it's stood out that it you need to speak out. Like you need to see things and advocate against them. Like this the whole thing with intersectionality really hit me like really hard because it's at the crossroads of there's nothing you can do. Like you can try definitely, like you can definitely speak against it, you could go to court against it, you could go and rally against it, but in the eyes of many other people there's nothing you can do and it's a losing battle. And I thought about that because it came back, I guess, to my parents. It's like, what if they have a moment like that and they can't speak out against it? And I guess it also ties in with my mom and my sister that are women and they're like Hispanic, Latino women, that it's like, what if something happens and then they don't have a voice? So, like, I want to at least in any way I can try and speak out against things I see like that. It's like, you know, sometimes there's comments that are like, that's not okay. Like I know where you're thinking, but it's not okay.
Mhm.
Like I try to be as nice about it as possible, but it's like I know I understand that you don't see it this way. Like you don't think that it's harmful or anything like that. but to somebody else, you might make this joke and they might feel offended, or you might make this particular comment and they might feel offended.
Mhm.
So I don't know, to a certain extent, I met people that made me into a better person. Sort of, I don't want to change people, but like I want to educate people to a certain extent. Like I don't want to like beat them over the head with anything, but just like tone it down a little bit. Like
You don't want to be like imposing, but at the same
yeah,
time, you want to
yeah.
feel.
Like the other day, I had an experience, and it wasn't with like racism, but I feel like this is what I'm trying to get at. Um, I was with three friends, right? And one of them, well, I was with two friends, and then one of them brought a date. But the girl got angry at somebody else, and then he was pushing it. He was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Like, are you good?" And I was like, just give it a second to breathe, because there's nothing that you can say right now that is gonna make her feel better. Right now, her anger is still like in the air. You need to give her a second. And when you're with her personally, when she is comfortable in a space where she is calm, then address it. So in a sense, I just like, I want to do that. I want to have like, get people in a calm environment, like nothing like personal or attacking them. It's just like, give them a second, talk to them about it, and either like have a discussion about it, have a talk, or just, like bring it up. And they don't listen, then it's like, that's on them, not on me anymore.
Mhm.
Like I'd want them to change, obviously, and if it happens again, I'd probably call it out. But I don't want it to be like this big scene. I want it to be like, hey man, that kind of wasn't okay, like a personal one-on-one.
Mhm. Because that is, if you're attacking the person, like you said before, that's not going to get you anywhere. So yeah, I think
Exactly.
that's a very smart way to go about it. Do you see yourself incorporating that in your future as a therapist?
I
Mental
really, really hope so. I really, really hope so, because I know that I'm personally a very hard-headed person, even though I try to look at everything as open-minded as I can. So I've been trying to break away from that by trying to, learn about many more social things, because I want to be able to address any problem that anybody has, may it be racial, may it be personal, may it be relationship wise, family wise. Like I want to be able to have all of those perspectives that even though I may not have lived through them, I can understand the feelings behind them and, help them address that.
Mhm.
So hopefully that comes with being knowledgeable in all this, all these race issues, because sometimes psychological issues can stem from those,
Mhm.
and I'd want to fix those.
So they kind of tie in with the job. Cool.
Yeah,
Um, so when it comes to the course, again, what is your favorite part?
that's difficult because honestly, I really like this class. Like, I liked the format where sort of everyone got a day to sort of like take the reading and interpret them, because then you get to see like how they understood it, how you understood it, how, let's say, Mr. Bartlett is gonna interpret it and spin it and turn it into something bigger, and then tying it in with stuff that may be personal to us, maybe personal to other people, and then hearing all of those and then just tying them together. I really liked that presentation aspect. I think that was my favorite part, probably, just presenting and then discussing, and then all the questions. I really like those.
Mhm.
Like there were a few questions on there that I was like, I probably should have thought about that, and it just broadens my perspective.
I can definitely relate to that because the questions people ask and the points they bring up, it makes me go like, "Oh my God, how did I not think of that?"
Exactly.
Um, Another aspect of the course is the reflections that we have to do. So I was curious, did those cause you to think about anything further? Did they lead to you learning more about yourself?
I know that Mr. Bartley had to tell me twice, and then after that, like it sort of worked out. But I know that the first two reflection papers I wrote were very negative. Like I kept reading and we kept discussing, and then I just kept getting angrier because I was like, how have we allowed this to happen? How have we been standing here and not been doing anything? How are there people posting about this online? There's people sharing this. There's people reading this right now, yet we haven't done anything about it. And is there a way that we can do something about it? Like right in those two, because I was like, how how are we going to do this? And then on reflection papers 3 and 4, I was very much in the sense I was looking at it more from the bright side. I wrote one of them, and then I was like, sometimes like we have to look at our wins sometimes too. Like I know that I've personally been negative in the past about this, but we have to take our wins. Like we have to take our cultural wins and celebrate those as hard as we can. We need to take, I don't know, any small shred of victory that we can taste in this entire journey and celebrate it until we can't anymore, until we find the next step to take.
Mm-hmm.
And then we take that step and we celebrate that step too. And it sort of made me, more active in wanting to do things. Like it made me be like, okay, I want to get us to that next step. I want to people that are going to help other people get to that next step. And it made me feel good afterwards. Like those reflection papers really made me think that for as pessimistic as sometimes I can be about, how everything sucks in the world right now, it's like sometimes the little things are what matter. Sometimes the big, like just darkness, I guess, is overwhelming. But that one, like you have to take every light you can find and just like, okay, let me take this, and just make it brighter as you go.
Mm-hmm. That's a really cool metaphor, because that really is the case. When you're surrounded by so much negativity, all you can do is look for the wins and then use those to fuel you. Because if you let all the negativity around you fuel you, it's going to get you at some point, right? Because there's so much of it.
That drag.
You
So just taking all our wins.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Like you're fine on my.
Okay, great. Give it a second. All right, it seems to be stable now. Cool. So again, when it comes to the course, we talked about the reflections and you really like the presentation aspect. Is there anything you didn't like? Anything you could think you think that could have been done different?
I really don't know. I think about it sometimes, and I think that sometimes the breakout rooms sometimes were a little bit wonky, but most of the time we did do our research like in our breakout rooms, and we had meaningful discussion in them. So I don't like. I think they can stay. Probably more formatted, but I think the breakout rooms are the only things that sort of maybe needed a little bit of improvement. But besides that, I think everything was pretty good.
That's interesting. The breakout rooms experiences for me have been on and off kind, because sometimes they're like really engaging and we're all firing, but then sometimes we're all just
Yeah,
silent. And then you have to be like,
sort of just like try to figure out how to talk.
it's
Yeah,
right. It can be tweaked. But when
yeah.
it comes to finding those little wins, right? Obviously, Trump losing and Biden winning, that was a pretty big win.
That
Were
was okay.
you able to enjoy that win, considering the Trump caravans that showed up on campus, the the danger that kind of ensued.
Yeah. I know that before I was definitely sort of thinking it's like this is all going to go downhill very fast no matter what happens. And then I remember the night that uh Biden and Kamala Harris just like spoke. I think it was it in Denver? I can't remember, but like the day they gave like their official like winning speeches, and I was there in the living room, and then felt as they were talking, sort of like I felt like I was sinking into the seat in just calmness. I felt like a big step just happened. I felt like something good had finally happened, and like I felt 4 years sort of start fading, and it
Wow.
was amazing. And I stood there, and I was like, things might change, things might actually get better. And the one thing that's the one thing I still vividly remember to this day, and that I hope I don't forget for a while. When Biden said, "We will not lead by the example of our power, but by the power of our example." That one's the one that stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
That stuck with me, and I really hope it does for a long time.
Sorry. That does really take into account the what it means to be an anti-racist, right? It is all about leading with example and kind of using um, our power to just react and to raise awareness, to push through, right? Um, did you ever feel like
Yeah.
the win was?
Like I feel like that's what the Trump.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, my bad. I was just like that's what I felt like the Trump caravans did. They were trying to display power instead of just trying to be civil.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Um, that's all there is to it when it comes to that caravan. I think it's just people being horrible people.
I
Um,
agree.
when it comes to talking to people like that, though, do you think that there's a certain approach you have to take? Or can you even talk to people like that? Is there hope to get through to them?
I feel like a few of them, yes. There's a few that like I've seen a few talks of like people that do stand behind Trump, and it's a lot of them obviously have no concrete points, but the ones that do decide to sort of go deeper, I guess, talk about economic growth and how much he's done for the vets, and like sure those things can be viewed as positive, but we need to let Biden do his thing. We need to see what happens when he's in power, because just saying, "Oh, he's done more of this and that," you don't put into perspective, "Oh, well, Biden's just in office now. So, let's see what's going to happen there before we start making either any comparisons or any I don't know, any shots towards either candidate, even though Trump is a racist." But
Yeah.
we yeah,
Um,
but we'll see.
we will see. And I think that's the big takeaway. It's a matter of time. Um,
Yeah.
okay. I have one last question for you. If you were in front of a group of people and you had the opportunity to speak about racism, these people, they're not racist, but at the same time, they're not anti-racist. They're just neutral. They don't know much about the subject. Um, basically, people you would typically find in the street. Is there anything in specific you would want to say to them?
I know this definitely comes from something that I watched today. Like it definitely clear them together. But in a sense, it's all, no matter what you are, what you look like, any conditions, like skin, race, color, religion, anything, we are all part of the same whole. We all come, I guess, from the same root. We are all humans. We are all people. We are all people that have had experiences, that have walked through life from different points, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we should all respect and join that, in a sense, like different, like all those differences, and celebrate them for what. Let's say I lived in a tropical island for 16 years. You lived in Egypt in a desert for how long?
Uh, Probably around 14 years.
Like 14 years. Like, we are people that come from completely different backgrounds. We are people that have completely different cultures, different foods, different languages, different climates, different everything. Yet here we are talking about it and learning about each other and giving each other the chance to do that with absolutely completely open arms and an open mind and an open heart to do all of that. And if people could have either that one-on-one or maybe in a group, that I feel would change everything. Having that sort of influx of information come to you and being like, oh wow, like we are completely different people, yet we're both standing here. I feel like that would just open up so many just avenues for change.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot because it's sort of like leading from love instead of hate. If people give themselves the chance to take in all the wonder, they're going to be happy, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Is there
Thank
anything
you. This was
you'd like to
awesome.
say? Oh yeah, of course. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
To whoever's watching this at some point for a class project that they have to do, try and sit through it. I promise it's fun.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.